All right, Mr. Mariano, I appreciate you taking some time to sit down with me, man. I know I kind of blindsided you with this one, but I really appreciate you sitting down and talking with me for a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I know we've been trying to line this up for a while.
Yeah,
So.
for a little bit. I mean, you live out in California, so anytime that you're here, anytime that anyone comes through here that, is big in the space, I really want to take the opportunity to try and sit down and talk with them. But I know your schedule's busy, so it's nice for you to carve out some time for me. We really love doing this podcast here. We have this beautiful room that we use, only 4 days out of the week, and we were thinking like, what more can we do to create some content for the lodge? So it kind of just seemed like a waste to not use it for something like this. So this is what we've been doing with it, me and these two other guys over here. Man, I've got to be honest. I tried to find a little bit more background information on you before coming in here. I try and research everyone a little bit more. Obviously, I've seen the vlogs. I've followed your content for years, but I don't see like a huge social media presence beyond the vlogs. Is that true? Like I don't see you super active on like Instagram or Twitter, or
Yeah, it's not really my thing, which is weird because
it seems what
kind of YouTuber wants to be, a recluse, but I've just never really loved having everything about my life on display.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I try to, gauge what I want to share and what I want to keep to myself and my friends and family. And I think I kind of draw the line at the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I have Instagram, which I don't post too much on. And even when I do, it's usually about where I'm playing or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really use anything else. So kind of just like a private life with a YouTube channel on the side.
Yeah. No, I think that's totally fair. I mean, you got to draw that line somewhere, like you said.
Yeah.
And it just strike me as different, because most of the time when someone has like a YouTube presence, they also have a very large social media presence. But I think it's really important to keep that stuff, to keep a lot of your life private in a lot of ways that some people don't whenever they create content. So
yeah, well, it's beneficial for sure to have that big online presence.
Sure.
I'm leaving a lot of potential value for my career on the table by not capitalizing on maybe other platforms. But the trade-off is I have a little more peace of mind.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
And enjoy the private life a little more. So
yeah, no, that's absolutely important. And from what I did see, I've seen that like you and your partner, her name's Megan, is that
Megan?
Right? Megan. Yeah, that's right. You guys have been together for quite a long time now.
Yep.
So she's kind of been with you for like the entire poker journey up to this point, hasn't she?
Yeah. So I met Megan in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
High school sweethearts.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. We met in class,
Oh.
and I've known her a long time. It's been, I don't know, like probably 13 years that I've known her now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been forever. And yeah, she's been through all of it, the start of it, the ups, the downs.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been a ride.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, poker's never really an easy sell to someone like a partner. But I think maybe being there from the beginning is probably, so she can see the whole journey, is probably helped a lot in that regard. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I think most people, when you tell them I want to try playing poker to make ends meet, they're like, that's a terrible choice. And she was, I think, the only person in my life who didn't have that immediate reaction.
Really? Okay.
Which is odd.
Yeah.
Because she's a smart girl. So
yes, she's smart. So why would she think that's a good idea?
Yeah. But I, at the time I was watching Andrew Nemi a lot, and I think she kind of saw a little bit of that and maybe realized it's not this degenerate, crazy gambling lifestyle necessarily.
Yeah.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And so I think she just was willing to see how it went for me, and she kind of gave me that support necessary.
Yeah.
There were definitely times where after a bad run, she had to cover a few dinner costs, a few lunches here and there, but I think it worked out in the end.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so, given where you're at now. Yeah, I think that's something that is so not underrated, but less talked about, I think, is having a good partner that actually supports you through something like this, because it is a hard sell to explain to someone who has no, involvement in poker in any way that you're like, well, I'm just going to try and make a living gambling for hundreds, thousands of dollars. So it's it really doesn't make sense. I've tried explaining it to some people, and you just see like their heads explode whenever you talk about like losing $10,000 in a day or something like that. So
I mean, it is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And I totally get why people don't get it, but it's awesome to know that Megan is really supportive of you in that regard and always has been.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. She's solid.
yeah, that's good to hear, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're kind of part of the second generation, I suppose, of vloggers. That's at least kind of how I see it. I mean, you say you started pretty soon after watching Andrew Nemi. I started getting into poker watching Brad and Andrew and stuff like that. So what was the thing that really pushed you over the edge for like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to start this poker vlog and see how it goes?
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's a bit loaded.
Yeah.
So yeah, the main inspiration came from, I was just browsing YouTube. I've always been a YouTube nerd. Somehow I came across the poker stuff. And at the time I was really interested in like puzzles and games. I was studying stats in school, and I had a professor who would often reference game theory. And anyway, so some of those concepts translate really well into poker.
Yeah.
And poker, when I found Nemi's channel, seemed to really be, it checked a lot of boxes for me. You know,
that makes sense.
It's psychological, it's social, there's math, it's a game of wits, but also emotions. There's just so many things about it that I found fascinating. On the other hand, I was also always someone who liked to create things or just try passion projects, stuff like that, really into music or anyway, it seemed like the perfect combo for me to try a YouTube channel where I could pour my creative side into, at the same time develop a skill for a game that I thought tailored to my personality. So it seemed like a great thing for me to at least attempt, and I'm lucky to have found it at a time in my life where I could do that, because I know a lot of people fall in love with the game, you know, at not the best time. You know, they either have a family or they're already deep into their career, or for whatever reason, it's just not possible for them to really dive in.
I see.
Luckily at the time, I had like very little money. I had no career. I had just got fired from my previous job. It was like, whatever, you know, what do I have to lose?
And no money, let's go gamble. Let's play poker.
Exactly. So in a weird way, I thought I was like in a slump, which I was, but it was also a blessing in disguise because, you know, the stars aligned for me to be able to give it a shot.
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes it kind of creates that perfect storm for it's just like, why not, man? Like it pushes you over the edge to do something that you might not have otherwise. So you didn't play poker at all before starting the vlog, it sounds like.
No, I mean, I think I played maybe 3 months.
Okay.
I can't actually remember exactly the timeline, but yeah, I played very little before deciding to film myself doing it.
Yeah. No, that's I mean, that's a big leap to have only been playing for a couple of months, and then you're like, why not? Let's put it out to the world. So that's pretty crazy.
I mean, yeah, you're right, but in my defense, I figured no one would watch.
Sure.
I was very surprised that people started watching.
Yeah, fair enough. And now I think you're up to like 165,000 subscribers.
Yeah, I'm super happy with it. I like anything over 1,000 subscribers has exceeded expectations.
Yeah,
so,
no,
yeah,
it's
I'm thrilled.
It's been cool to see, man, because I watched a lot of your stuff. You know, after I started watching the Nemi and Brad Owen vlogs, obviously you and Rampage, I think, were kind of the next, you know, guys to really start pumping out the content. And so I started getting, you know, recommendations for that based on the algorithm. And so I watched pretty early on, back from when you were like playing 1-3, and then now here we are.
Cool.
So yeah, it's
thanks for watching.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. And I like the approach that you take with your channel. You kind of make it, you really lean into the long form aspect of it. It feels like.
Yeah.
How would you say that your channel differs from other poker content, especially at the time when the vlogs like were first coming out? Like what set you apart?
I think the main difference between my channel and others I've seen, and it's not like a knock, but I never put out content just for the sake of putting out content.
Right.
I only ever put out videos when I think the story is worthwhile and I'm proud of them. And, you know, to me, like the YouTube channel is kind of like my diary or my journal. I'm not just going to make an entry into that to have an entry.
Yeah.
I know that's not beneficial for the YouTube algorithm and maximizing traction, etc. So I leave a lot on the table by doing it that way. You know, the long format once a week or sometimes even once every 2 weeks. That's not really smart for like for trying to build like a Mr. Beast style.
Right.
But anyway, so I think that's a little bit different. You know, the fact that I I take my time and I'll put out one video here and there instead of like trying to pump out content as often as I can and maximize viewership. So I don't know. Maybe that's something I'm a bit proud of. Every video in my YouTube channel is a video I like. Personally.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said for only putting out stuff that you deem is quality rather than just going for the quantity measure, you know, the shotgun method where you just pump out as much content as possible just to drive like engagement or viewership or something like that.
Right. But, you know, maybe that's not the play because, you know, you got guys doing like the shorts and TikTok and everything else, and their channels are blowing up. Meanwhile, I'm still relatively way below their subscriber count. So not necessarily the right thing to do, but just my preference.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is it a goal of yours as you've seen like the channel develop to maybe get to those higher numbers, those like 250, 500, like Brad Owen level numbers or anything like that?
You know, I want to be like, nah, man, I don't care. Like I'm doing it for me, but it would be kind of cool. Like when I started approaching 100,000, it was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, holy,
that's a good feeling.
I don't know if I could cuss here, but
yeah, you can. Yeah,
I was
fine.
like,
it's pretty informal interview. It's not a big deal. So,
but yeah, I was super stoked about that milestone. And now as it's like edging closer to 200,000, I start to think about that. I'm like, man, that would be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So, you know, I try to tell myself I don't care, but I kind of care a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it's cool.
It is cool. And I don't think it's wrong to care a little bit. Like it's one thing to get caught up in the numbers and like obsess over it, but it's another to kind of look back and see it as like a cornerstone for like the success you've had. Right. So like it's a definitive thing that you can point at and say, hey, like the content that I create is something that people like to watch, and I can feel good about that. Like, I don't think that's wrong in any way. So,
yeah,
but it's cool to see the growth over the couple of years. I mean, are you planning on changing up the style of content? Like, are you going to like create any more short content, or are you just going to keep pumping out the stuff that you know and you love?
It's tough to say. You know, I think I'll always just do what I want to do, what feels right, because this was always just creative outlet for me. And as long as that feels fun and refreshing to do, then I'll do it. The second that changes and something else, you know, catches my attention or I think will be more appealing to me, then I'll do that.
Yeah.
But I'm never going to do anything just for the sake of trying to gain subs or stuff like that. It's just not really my thing. I think I have a healthy relationship with YouTube in that way that, you know, I started the channel with, you know, I had my intentions, my goals, and I felt like I was in control of my channel. Eventually, you know, it's easy to let the channel start to control you. You start to see like how much money it makes, how many subscribers you're getting, the reach you have, all that, and you start to let it kind of dictate your life and the way you work. And that's not necessarily a problem,
right?
You know, sometimes that could lead to even more success. But for me, I always wanted it to be like a hobby and something that fulfills my creative juices, you know?
Yeah.
And I've kept it that way so far, and I'm pretty happy with that. So
yeah,
like I don't even know what my CPM is.
I don't even know what CPM is.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like everyone talks about. Anyway, it's some
just like
YouTube statistic.
Yeah, I assume it like tracks engagement of some kind. Or
something.
Like,
yeah,
something
like sometimes like Rampage will ask me stuff about my YouTube statistics. And I don't know what to tell the guy, and he's like, "Dude, you're the biggest idiot with a following I've ever met." You know, so
that's hilarious. I love that it's kind of just taken on what it is as like a passion project rather than just something that you're just grinding, you know, day in, day out for just to become like an influencer or something like that. It's just something, I think that's the kind of content that people really love seeing. Like I've talked to Brad before about this, and he started it out as just essentially, I mean, you use the word diary. He used it as a way to film and show poker to like his family and like, so that they could see like day to day. Yeah. So that I thought that was pretty cool that he wanted to like show his friends and family that like he's not just some degenerate gambler. So he used it in that way. And so I think that people see genuine human content like that isn't just made for the sake of making content. I think that's very relatable, and I think that's why it ends up translating to pretty good success in the space. So yeah,
Brad's killing it. So
yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
that approach works.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. So you said that you are really selective kind of about what you decide to put out. What goes into your thought process for deciding on a story or even like a hand that you want to include in your vlog? Like what sticks out to you?
Well, I think the hands are always more interesting when the pot size is big.
Of course.
I think
Everyone
that's
wants to see the big
first and
numbers, man.
foremost. Yeah, but I definitely include hands here and there that aren't very big necessarily dollar wise, but I think are interesting for a decision that has to be made, or maybe a dynamic with another player, stuff like that. So that's usually the way I pick the hands. The way I pick the overall story of a vlog will just usually follow my life. Like, I think, this one will be quite easy. I came out to Texas, 12 hours after playing at Hustler in LA. I'm tired. I'm a bit sleep deprived. I want to just go home and like have a cheeseburger and go to bed.
Fair enough.
Right now, that's not the case. So I think the video will sort of showcase that, how it's like a rushed trip. I'm kind of on the go, trying to win money along the way. And so it'll be like a action-packed, sort of faster-paced video. Other times I play poker after a 2-week break. Feels chill. I was at the beach earlier, and I kind of just try to go with the vibe of whatever my life is at the time. So
I like that. I mean, it brings it all down back to earth, in the sense that like you really get a peek into what the vibe is at the time that you're playing. Like, is this hectic? Is this easygoing? Am I relaxed, or am I actually kind of stressed out? And I think that's really relatable to a lot of people. So it's cool that you kind of include that in your content. So that's cool to see.
I mean, I got it from some of my favorite YouTubers. I like when you can tell what's going on with them as a person, not just them as, a YouTuber for whatever industry they're in.
Right.
So I've always been someone who likes to breach past that point. I think that makes it more enjoyable for the viewers. So I try to do that as a creator.
No, that's cool, man. That relatability is really something that's really, really key, I think, in a lot of ways. Well, moving away from the vlog itself, I do want to talk about kind of your rise through the stakes a little bit, because you've had a pretty insane rise through the stakes in poker by comparison to a lot of people. You recently had a 200K win at Hustler the other night. Congratulations on that. That's pretty sick. You had a big win yesterday. I think you were up like 40K in the neighborhood, something like that?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. You seem to just kind of be crushing it. And most of your content circulates around playing like these pots with just unimaginable numbers. And like, you recently put out a video of you playing, I think it was a couple months ago maybe, that like you went back to 1-3 and you went back to like essentially where you started. Obviously that's a pretty stark contrast to everything that you're doing now, but can you speak a little bit about what the journey has been like going from playing something like 1-3 of these casual everyday stakes to now playing just nosebleed stakes by the end of this?
Yeah, well, it's been a hell of a journey. Not one that I necessarily foresaw. But yeah, I mean, the way it began was probably similar to most people in the poker world and most people watching this. You get bit by the bug. You first start playing, you're
as
like,
we all do.
This game is awesome. I was fascinated by it, so I became immersed in early on trying to become as good as I could be at the game and be competitive, and I was just obsessed with winning. And it's kind of a fault of mine, but also a good thing in a way, that whenever I become interested in something, I'm overly obsessive about it. I tailor almost like all my time and resources into that one thing, which has helped me in a lot of ways. But, other areas of life suffer. I don't hang out as much with friends, with Megan, which she constantly reminds me of. She's like,
she should.
You need to do a better job of allocating your hours. My parents, they're like, you don't come around enough. So other things suffer, but the upside is I tend to do well in whatever I'm obsessing about. And that's what happened with poker. Is I started playing at the 1-3 level. I had like a $600 bankroll. Playing
solid
like
2 buy-ins. Let's go, baby.
Let's
awful. Spin it up.
It was awful. And I got my ass kicked early on. I took a loan from a friend for like $1,000, I think it was. My best friend, Joseph. Shout out to him if he's watching this for some reason. He loaned me $1,000, and luckily I didn't bust that. So I studied as many Nimi vlogs as I could. I went on like some training sites. I wanted to like not suck. Luckily it worked out. Started playing 2-5 as soon as I could, because I just kept hearing about how the rake kills you or whatever. I didn't even know what it meant, but I was like, I just know I got to play bigger.
Just got to play bigger.
Just got to play bigger. And winning at 1-3 or 2-5 was huge to me, because the job I had prior to that was delivering pizzas.
So me too, man. I was pizza delivery driver right before really kind of getting into poker. Yeah, it's it's a solid
I loved it.
Just kind of bullshit job. It's pretty easy job. You make like 20, 25 an hour on good weekends and
stuff. Exactly right. And you're chilling in the car listening to music.
Yeah, exactly. Free pizza.
No complaints about that job.
Yeah, no complaints. No complaints.
But the numbers compared to that job were amazing once I started winning. So that just gave me even more fuel that I needed to stay motivated. Right around that time, COVID started to come down. And, I was still playing like 1-3 or 2-5, maybe 5-10. And COVID just opened the floodgates because I used to live by Morongo, which is a casino in California. That's an Indian reservation casino. They didn't abide by all the same laws that California has as a state.
So they were open.
They were open.
Yeah.
So a bunch of the LA card rooms were closed and people were flooding to Morongo to play, just wearing a face mask with like the plastic dividers.
Yeah.
And that's where I really, grinded my teeth at 510 for like a year and a half or however long that was. I was there like every damn day.
Yeah.
And that was really, really good for my bankroll.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah. No, those times during COVID, like I have my own story about that where like here in Texas, they were a little bit more lax about that. The card rooms had just opened up. And I mean, it was insane, man.
Yeah.
It was insane for a while. I'm sure the same was out in California.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah.
Which is weird to think about because COVID was a terrible thing for so many people.
Yeah.
So I always feel a little bit guilty about like, oh man, COVID was the best.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great time, man. I made a lot of money during COVID.
Yeah, let's do it again. Like I feel awful about it. I don't really like to point to that because I know, people lost loved ones and like a lot of people lost their jobs and it just messed up so many things. For me, it really helped. And that kind of gave me that launch pad to have a little bit of a bankroll where I felt comfortable, shot taking. In comes Hustler Casino Live right around the same time. And, growing up as a poker kid, all I ever watched was Live at the Bike or whatever other stream I could get my hands on. And I used to study all these guys, wondering why they're doing what they're doing. I would study like Art Papazian, Chris Brewer, Garrett. And like endless other great players that would be on there. And I was like, man, it'd be sick to like have that one day.
Yeah.
Hustler Casino Live comes around. So I was like, man, maybe this is like an opportunity for me.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I was acquainted with Ryan Feldman already or not, but for anyone who doesn't know, he's the one who runs Hustler Casino Live. I reached out to him, asked him if I could play, and he put me on a 510 or a 510-20 stream, which was still a big game for me at the time, especially on a stream. You know how everything's bigger.
Yeah, it feels bigger. Like just being present in the room just makes the game feel so much more serious.
Yeah, and it is because people buy in for too much for whatever stakes they're playing. Like even last night, the game is 50-100. If you go play 50-100 in Vegas, people usually have like 10K, 20K. Some have like 30.
Yeah. Well,
that is like a
75,
small,
right?
Yeah,
so,
I mean, that's like a small stack at a lot of, maybe here it's a little bit more reasonable, but in LA, people.
It's still pretty small for.
So, it was a big game. And that's when I got like my foot in the door with Hustler. And luckily, I've been able to continue playing there. Ryan and I have a good relationship and it's given me this chance to continue building the bankroll. It went really well for me playing on streams. Here as well, here and Hustler have done really good to me. So now, I'm blessed to have this chance where I can play games like these and try to handle the swings. Yeah. So that's kind of how it went. That's the ride.
Yeah, just holding on for dear life. It sounds like like the rest of us, man. Like
that's it.
Yeah, just climbing the stakes. I mean, it's kind of that classic story that we all love to see. So it's been really cool to see the progression, especially having just seen it from when you're just grinding out 1-3 and now it's just like this guy's playing for $500,000 all of a sudden. So
I didn't realize how lucky, everything turned out to be until I look back at it. Like, getting fired from that job was actually the perfect time. Having a chance to go and play at local casinos, then COVID, then Hustler Casino Live opening up, and me just coincidentally having a YouTube channel, which was part of the reason I was able to get invited. All these things just lined up perfectly in order for me to be where I am now.
Yeah.
And they were all just like sheer luck.
Yeah.
So it's not like I don't realize how many fortunate things had to happen, but yeah, I'm super grateful about it all.
For sure. And yeah, sometimes it's kind of easy to miss until you kind of get to a certain point, and then you have to look back, and then you're just like, oh yeah, I've had a pretty good run, haven't I? So even if it has felt stressful, and I'm sure it has along the way, and doesn't come without its challenges by any means, but it's still always good to kind of take all that in and have time where you can just look back and really just appreciate like how fortunate you end up being, and with all the success. So it's been really cool to see, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. How would you say that your attitude towards poker has changed since you played 1-3 versus now you're playing for more money than most people will have at any one time? Like, I'm sure that changes your mental game about it, or the way that you approach it mentally. So
yeah, that's a good question. It's kind of a complex, loaded one in a way, at least for me personally. But that's not something people ask me very often. How do you feel about the game? Everyone just assumes that you love, breathe, die poker all the time.
No, it's your relationship changes with it throughout.
For sure.
It's the whole journey. That's part of the journey. And especially as you move up stakes, whenever you start to like take a moment, you're like, I'm playing for outrageous amounts of money. Like, how do you center yourself and bring yourself back down to earth whenever you do that kind of stuff?
It's funny because it's probably not a great thing to admit this, but I'm like not in love with the game at this point, which I hope changes.
Yeah.
I'm not as obsessed as I used to be. In the first couple of years, I was like every day absorbing content, trying to get better. I wanted to like, okay, I want to win 10 big blinds an hour. Once I accomplish that, I want to like win this much for the year. Okay, now I want to be able to like blah, 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 I want to know everything about 4-bet pots out of position. I'm just obsessed with that. I want to know everything about like big blind versus cutoff. Like it would just every day something. Now it's like I really only think about poker when I have to go play and sit at the casino, and then I forget about it when I leave.
Yeah.
Part of the reason is I've, developed other interests in life recently. And I've kind of been obsessed with those other endeavors at the time. So yeah, it's not my favorite thing in the world right now, but I think that's just because I'm experiencing a little bit of like career burnout maybe, because it's just all I focused on for so long,
right?
Paired with the YouTube channel as well. Even when I wasn't playing, I was like creating content. So it's just been too much for me, and I've never been someone who likes to only have like one thing going at a time in life.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to focus more on like going to the gym, or like I said, I'm doing this music thing with some friends, hanging out more with Megan or family and whatnot. So lately it's been kind of like that, just giving it this own little pocket in my life.
Yeah.
And that's all it is at the time.
Yeah. And I honestly, man, I think that that's healthy in a lot of ways. I totally understand the obsession, right? Like when I first started playing, like, Christ, I guess it was like 6-7 years ago. I was the exact same way. I was like, give me everything I can possibly know about this. I was spending every day off work looking at, training sites, watching vlogs, watching live streams, just absorbing as much as I possibly could. And now that I've gotten pretty far down the road, I very much do not do any of that at home. Like when I go home, I don't touch anything about poker. I used to like run sims. I used to, get on GTO Wizard and play around. I used to watch vlogs. I don't even really watch streams anymore, despite the fact working on one. Like I really don't. For the most part, like I was obsessed, and I absolutely understand that obsession, but I also understand it kind of falling off after a while. And I think this is pretty common, not only just for people in poker, but for anyone who does something for long enough, right? Like you start to, it's not that you don't love the game anymore. It's that it has become, every day. It's become like almost mundane in a certain sense. And it's always good to be looking for other things to fill your life with, right? Yeah. And I've heard plenty of stories about poker players that have taken breaks, like years breaks, and then come back to it and like rediscover that kind of love for it. So it's not uncommon in any way. And I think it's good that you're comfortable saying that, because that's something that I think a lot of people need to really know about getting into something like this, because the game can grab you and it can hold on for a long time, but it is also good to take breaks from it every now and then, and just, you know, appreciate the other things that you have in your life. So
yeah. So that's where I'm at now.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear, man. I mean, it's good to hear that you're still broadening horizons in other respects. You mentioned the music project that you're working on. What's that about?
Yeah. Well, so music has always been my true love, so to speak. When I was right around the time I got fired from Pizza Hut, and during the time I was doing the pizza thing, I was also doing music production.
Yeah.
It's always been a passion of mine. The problem with it was it just didn't make me any money.
Yeah.
You know, and at the time I really needed money.
I get it.
Because I needed to like move out of my parents' house and make something of myself. So as much as I loved it, I couldn't pursue it as much as I wanted to. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
You know, maybe because my music wasn't good enough, or I just didn't know the right people, or luck, or whatever. You know, the music industry is just so tough to break through. There's just so much good music out there. Only a limited amount of ears that are willing to like take your stuff in.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had to let it go. Now, maybe 5 years later, I'm not as desperate for money. So I kind of have this freedom to pursue things that I want to do without this financial pressure of needing it to succeed in that way. So I am back with some childhood friends that I used to play music with. We're in a band. We're going to put some music out.
Awesome. And
we don't have any pressure about, you know, this needs to generate X amount of revenue or we need this much traction or whatever. It's just kind of like, let's see what happens. And if nothing happens, that's fine because we did it for us. If something happens, cool. You know, we'll play a show for some people or whatever. So that's what I've been working on lately. We've been recording and producing an album. It's actually an EP, which is like a short album.
Yeah.
It's a 6-song EP that we're just wrapping up this month. And we've been at it for like, I want to say like 9 months now.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's a pretty ongoing project. Yeah.
Long time in the making, and it's coming out soon. So that's kind of got all my attention at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. What do you play?
I play the drums.
Okay.
But
that's interesting. A lot of poker vloggers. And Nimi plays drums.
He does,
You play drums. I'm actually just about to sell my drum kit, unfortunately. But it's a sad day. But I haven't touched it in 3 years. I used to play it every day.
Time to sell it.
But it's an extra $1,000 I could need. Could use.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's always a sad day. But I get it. But yeah.
I feel like if you rekindle that love with drums, you'll get one.
Yeah, so, that's exactly how I feel. Is that like I can always get another kit.
Yeah.
Like, I do love my kit and I love my cymbals, but I can always buy another one if I really want to pick it up again.
Dude, you're fine. I sold my drum kit once and I was super bummed about it. But I got another one. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. You just get another one later on whenever it's not just taking up space in your closet.
Yeah.
So,
but I just want to mention I'm actually not very good at drums.
No.
Like I'm the drummer for the band because that's what I played when we were kids. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
My main thing is actually the mixing and mastering, like the audio engineering. That's actually what I think I'm decent at.
Yeah. That makes sense with like the vlogging background and, you know, having to do all the video editing and stuff. So.
Well, actually I had all that before the vlog.
Oh,
and it helped me a lot when I started vlogging because the workflow in video editing is so similar to audio editing. I was like, oh, this is, you know, so simple. There's just an extra dimension, which is like the video aspect of it, but the timelines and the way the software works is so similar. So that's the main thing I focus on for the band is recording, mixing, producing, and eventually mastering all the tracks. So that's what I've been up to like the last 3 months.
I see.
But in terms of actually hitting the drum with the stick, I get by. All right. I haven't devoted a lot of time to this. It's hard.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, drumming is really hard. And, you know, it's all right though, because like, as long as you can like just sit in the pocket, you know, the drums do not have to be the whole show. You know what I mean?
Right.
So as long as you can just keep everybody together, I think you guys.
That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do. What I'm more proud of is hopefully when this music comes out, I want it to sound, you know, professional when you're playing it on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever.
Yeah.
I hope when you browse through, you know, released well-known music and then you go onto our band's music, it's comparable.
Yeah.
You know? That's really like where I'm like, I did that.
Yeah.
But playing the drum kit live, like just don't pay attention, all right? Just watch
don't look too close.
Yeah, just kind of like feel the music, you know? Don't watch me.
No, that's awesome, man. When is that expected to release?
It's a little up in the air right now, but I want to say, so definitely before the end of the year, maybe even before Thanksgiving. So we're targeting like late September, but you know how these things go. I'm accounting for some sort of unexpected delay because releasing music like
It's
the
always
right
good to
way.
do.
Yeah, we're like, we have lawyers in place to make sure everything is done the right way.
Mhm.
We have to distribute it properly. We have to, anyway, there's a bunch of boxes that need to be checked.
Mhm.
And so I don't want to like promise anything.
Mhm.
When does this come out?
This will probably be in the next maybe month or so. Like, it's not going to be like next week or anything.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
So maybe
like
it's
2
already
weeks.
out
Yeah.
by the time people are seeing this.
Maybe so. Maybe
If
so.
not, it's almost out.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Well, man, that's what's the band called?
I can't say yet.
Can't say yet.
Can't
All
say
right.
it.
No worries. No worries, man. I get it. You got to keep it close to your chest.
I got to do it because the lawyers are in the middle of like filling all that out.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be on the lookout for that either way. So
I just don't want to get the name jacked.
Yeah.
Because we had a name. We had a name like a year ago. And out of the blue, because we were telling everyone like our name, I don't know how it happened, but suddenly an artist took it. And I think it was just a coincidence.
But let's hope so.
Let's hope so. But some anonymous person has it now on Apple Music.
Yeah,
and they don't have any pictures of themselves or anything. And we were like, man, so now we're like cards close to the vest. Is that the saying?
Yeah.
We're doing that thing.
I see. No, that makes sense. All right, then no problems. We'll keep it a secret for now. We'll keep it a secret. Well, moving. Good luck with that. First of all, that sounds really awesome. But moving back to the poker a little bit, we talked a little bit about live streams and how they've really helped with like basically being a ramp to your career and a lot of other poker players' careers. You've played on a lot of live streams. You played on Hustler primarily. Now you play here. You obviously have an open invite anytime you want to come here. In your experience, what kind of opportunities does playing on a live stream do for like an up and coming poker player? Like what does that add to your career progression?
Well, I think the very clear value that anyone can probably guess is it's a great learning tool. So for any up and coming player to be able to see how you perform versus other players' holdings and being able to watch tape essentially is invaluable, because the learning curve just is so much easier when you're able to watch tape. When I used to play at the casino, you just kind of have to write hands down or remember, etc. But being able to have the live stream as a tool is great.
Yeah.
There's also other benefits like networking or whatever, people will recognize you. People know that you have experience on a stream. They can see what you look like. They can see that, you're a normal person. You get invited to more games or whatever it may be. So I think it's good for publicity. I think it's good for learning. Some people don't care to learn and some people don't want the publicity.
Yeah.
So
it's fair enough.
I know a fair amount of players who like
don't play on stream.
Yeah. I used to host games in LA and they would ask me, I know your game's at Hustler. Is it going to be streamed? And I'd have to tell them no for them to show up.
Yeah.
So it's not for everyone, but I think it's got its advantages.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely seems like, at least these days, like if you're going to be a content creator in the poker space, like playing live streams is mandatory. But I really love that you highlighted the aspects of it if you aren't doing that, right? Like you get to watch tape. Like I've coached a few students and it's just invaluable. It's so easy whenever they're like, hey, I played this stream recently. And it's like, all right, sweet. Let's go through every hand. Because you can not only see the hands, like all the information from the hand itself, but you can see the emotions that they're displaying. You can see, maybe how they felt in that moment. You get all of that information. You can provide feedback on all of that. And you get to see yourself making those mistakes or those wins on camera. And I think that is just invaluable as a poker player. But I understand why a lot of people don't want to play them, right? A lot of guys, if they feel very confident in their game, they're very studied, they don't want to, give away too much or something like that to keep themselves solid in their game. So I get that. But it also makes sense from a networking standpoint. I mean, you just meet so many cool like content creators, like players, dealers, by playing on these live streams, because a lot of people enjoy the spotlight a little bit. They enjoy the publicity. So it's good. It's a good way that brings a lot of people together that you may not have played with otherwise. So
definitely, I've met so many people that I was like, I can't believe I'm sitting next to this person.
Yeah, right.
So it's definitely got its perks.
Yeah,
like I got to play with like a famous chess player. I got to play with Magnus Carlsen.
You got to play with Carlsen, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild.
So that's nuts. You know, to be able to sit alongside the number one in the world at anything is pretty cool. Amazing.
Yeah.
So
how is Magnus as a poker player, by the way?
He's too smart, man. Like he just randomly showed up and was way too good for someone who
basically just started playing, right?
He's probably like, I don't know if he's gotten tested, but he's probably like legally a genius.
Yeah.
So Yeah, that was pretty annoying.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I'll show up in a high stakes game. You're like, oh, I'm playing against a genius. That's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's cool, man. I think that is really some of the most relatable things that anyone can have to the game of poker is that most people enjoy it for the people that you meet.
Yeah.
And I think streams really heighten that kind of experience in the sense that you get to meet people that you never thought you would have otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. The personal aspect of poker is something I even underestimated, because for as obsessed as I was with strategy and everything behind the concept of the game itself, I just can't play online.
Yeah.
I tried it a few times and I'm so bored, and I just feel nothing even when I win.
Yeah, it's just numbers on a screen. At that
Yeah,
point.
and it's not for me. Like, credit to people who do that for hours on end or years or whatever. I think that's tough to do. I didn't realize how much I care about the live aspect until I tried to do the online thing, and it's not my thing.
It's not really my thing either. So the social aspect is incredibly important. I think it's just more fun, man.
And I'd probably get my ass kicked online too.
Yeah.
So
game's definitely tougher online. So.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone there's, if not as good as me, then better.
Yeah.
So it's maybe for the best that I'm not interested in it.
Yeah, fair enough, man. Fair enough.
Can't afford it.
Yeah, can't afford to play online.
Not a good hobby.
Days. Well, you've played on Hustler and here. I don't know if you've played on many other live streams, but what is something that you think live streams could do, like across the board or for their show, to improve the experience they provide for the players?
That's a good question. I think letting the players run the show is something that's important.
Okay. In what sense?
Well, for example, you got to have some rules in place. That makes sense. But there are certain things like, where can you straddle from? Or what side games can we do?
Yeah.
Or do we have to draw for seeds? Or stuff like this, where I think it's a delicate topic, but the main thing about playing poker is that the players are trying to enjoy themselves. So I think you have to let them do that in order to let this organic good game flow.
Right.
When players feel like they're not really getting what they want, or rules are too restrictive, I think it can sometimes like impair the action a little bit. And so yeah, that's one thing. Like, I don't know, as a game runner myself, or ex game runner, since I don't really do it anymore, but my main thing was just to sort of cater to the client, which in our case are the players.
Right.
So I would like order food. I would play whatever music they want.
Right.
I even got one of the guys there like a custom chair, similar to DQ.
Right.
Stuff like that. Just make sure everyone's happy. And once everyone's happy, then that's when the good games flow.
Yeah, I agree. It's a balance you have to strike, because like we have people, on the production side here at the lodge, we're very focused on creating a good product for the YouTube audience, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes certain things that maybe affect the quality of that will detract from the quality of the game itself. Like,
of course,
like trying to keep the graphics as accurate as possible. Like, that's probably usually the most contentious point, where like people say like, I want to do these prop bets, side bets, whatever, out of our stack or something like that. Or I want to straddle from here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. And that's probably where the most grinding happens, in terms of like, okay, we have to make a decision about, is this going to impact the quality of the product we're trying to put out, or is this going to be detrimental to the game itself?
Yeah, that's a great point. You guys are trying to do this balancing act, which I think you do a great job of, because whenever I'm at the lodge, people are having fun and the stream is great. So you guys have struck a good balance. But it is ongoing and it's hard. Like another example yesterday was, you guys have a rule here, which I forgot about. When players are all in, they have to show their cards. That's something that's, I think, cool for the YouTube audience, because it just looks badass when like there's a big pot and the turn and river are peeling off and you see the two cards face up. Like, it's a TV hand, you know?
Yeah, exactly. TV hand, man.
But the downside is, and someone made a point to this yesterday, I can't remember who, maybe Jay or someone, but maybe players bluff less now because they know that they're going to have to show everyone at the table and everyone in the room their cards. And if they're playing something poorly, that might run through their mind.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I got caught yesterday with like a somewhat embarrassing, I had like a draw.
Yeah.
And, I let Jay know that he was ahead.
Right.
We were all in. And he showed me his hand. I was like, yeah, you got it.
It was like King 7.
I had King 7 of diamonds. And everyone was like, yeah, well, let's see what you got, Mariano.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't really get a shit. Like, I was like, all right, look, here's what I got. Whatever. But I could see how some other players might not be into that. And that's just one example of how you're always trying to ride this balance between what's good for the stream and what's good for the players in the stream.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a tough job, but I think you guys are killing it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we really have, like, we've had conversations about that exact topic actually, about like how hard do we push these players to show the cards? Like, we know like certain players really don't like to, like DQ like does not want to. Like other players really don't like turning their hands over, and it does come to a point where we're like, you know, maybe we can let this slide, or maybe something we've been doing lately is instead of framing them up with the cards face up, we just put them there face down, and then we let the player choose. It really is, you know, just if it's going to become like a big deal, we usually let it go, but it really is just a constant balancing act. And we try to do our best with it, and it's good to know that at least like people notice at the very least. So.
Yeah, no, you guys are working with the players, and that's what matters. You know, you're not just the carrot, and you're not just the stick. You're kind of in between, and that's how I think it should be. You got to have these soft skills. You know, another example was I played a big pot on stream once where one of the players wanted to run it 3 times. The pot was big.
Yeah.
And that wasn't one of the rules. You know, you could only run it twice.
Yeah.
But, you know, they were willing to bend the rules for this player, and I thought, like, that's another good thing. You know? Here and there, it's okay.
Yeah, the customer service aspect is really important. It's just
for sure
a constant game of like balancing the game itself and the quality of the product that we're trying to output on YouTube. And so I a lot of respect to Hustler as well for doing that kind of stuff. I don't know it feels like it's a little bit looser over there, but it really is just like a philosophical difference, and that's all it boils down to. But it's good to know that really, like, most people agree that making the game good itself is really kind of the most important aspect.
Yeah, because that's what gives you, you know, that lifespan.
Yeah.
You know, that's what you want, is to make sure that this goes on as long as it can.
Yeah.
But you guys are doing a great job. I think Hustler does a good job too.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
I'm happy. You know?
Yeah. I think we all are. It's all
I think everyone's winning,
well.
I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think so, for sure. Well, man, I did want to also ask, you've been in the content creation space for a while. How do you think content creation in general is going to evolve, or how you've been seeing it evolve like over the next 5 years or so? Because we've kind of moved away from a lot of the more longer form content. We're starting to move towards like short form. Do you see any other trends that are starting to develop?
That's a good question. You know, I wish I had a little more knowledge about the YouTube space. I don't really follow poker stuff online. Like I mostly watch, you know, chess vlogs or other stuff unrelated to poker. So I wouldn't know too well, but my guess would be that things are just going to become more and more efficient. You know, people's attention span seems to get shorter. Another thing that's really important is how easy is your content to consume. So I think being on like as many platforms as you can with short, concise formats is probably going to win in the end, numbers wise. I just don't see a lot of people who enjoy like 45-minute videos.
Yeah, it's tough
anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And
who has the time?
Here's like a good example is look at Nimi's channel, right? His early videos, he used to show you, you know, where he's going, then he would like show you his car, then he'd tell you where to have a beer after. Like it was just this like relaxed sort of like coffee shop style vibe where you're like everyone's vibing, you know? And then look at like Brad's content. It's like, hey, we're at the Bellagio. Boom, you know? And it's just hands and hands and hands and maybe like a little bit of talking. And people love that shit. You know? And so I think that kind of shows you right there what the audience wants. And so probably numbers wise, you know, the pure content, the raw concentrated material that people want, which are hands. That's always going to win. And if you're making that shorter content on multiple platforms, that seems to be the formula for sheer numbers.
It definitely does. It definitely does. And I've gotten to talk to a lot of other people about it, and they all pretty much agree on that aspect. So any out the door advice for anybody who wants to kind of break into the poker content creation space as somebody who's already, you know, come out the other side of it pretty successfully?
Thanks. You know, this might not be the advice people want to hear, but I think to succeed in an industry that revolves around the game, it's important to be really good at the game. I'm not saying that I am or I am not, but at least it's something I'm trying to be. And still am, actually. Like I'm not going to get into exactly how, but I'm always working on my game. And I don't know. I think trying to successfully be a mouthpiece of an industry that you're not a complete master of is like the foundation isn't there. For me personally, you know, I don't like to watch poker creators who I don't feel like are really working on their games too much, or same with chess. Like I watch a lot of chess vlogs or chess videos, and it seems like a lot of guys are just getting into it to try to like have a social media presence. It's not really my thing. I like to derive everything out of someone who has the skill and I think can really teach this to someone else if they needed to.
Yeah.
So I would say my advice is to really work on your game and make sure you feel comfortable with the mechanics of the game itself before you start trying to create content about said game and share it to other people.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not complaining because they're making the games great. You know, like there's so many people online giving advice about how to play hands or whatever. I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and I really, if I was being like two-faced right now, I'd be like, everyone should just play. That's the way to do it. But at this point, like, I'd rather just be honest.
Yeah.
I think working on your game should be the priority.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. That's a very different answer that I've heard from the few people I've talked to. Is they mostly talked about like, you know, do this, this, and this. You know, create content consistently or et cetera. But like having an actual interest in what you're creating content around, I think is really important for getting that relatable kind of audience. So
yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's not that advanced of a concept, you know, like if I wanted to start a YouTube channel about how to fix up cars, I'm not just going to start pumping out content. Like I better learn about the damn car first. Yeah. And I think it's a little bit like that. So, I mean, I'm sure all those other points you heard are also true and I'm missing a bunch of stuff, but that seems to stick out to me the most. Is a lot of YouTube creators out there doing poker now. Not a lot of great players doing poker content, you know. So
ain't that the truth, man? Yeah.
I mean, myself included, plenty of times. You know, I played terrible. At least I know I'm doing it. You know?
I'm aware that I'm messing this one up.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think mastering the craft is a very, maybe people don't want to, but it's a necessary step. You know. So.
Yeah. Well, that's good, man. I think that's really, really good advice. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here in just a minute, but you already talked about a couple of things coming up. Is there anything else you wanted to plug before we wrap up?
No, not much of a plug type of guy.
Fair enough.
Yeah, just, well, I guess my band stuff. Yeah. If anyone out there likes music, which is probably everybody listening to this.
I would think so. I would hope so.
Yeah, check it out. And we are going to be playing shows locally around the Southern California area.
Okay.
If things go well, maybe outside of California. But yeah, if anyone is in the area and wants to come listen, we'll announce probably on my YouTube channel and Instagram and all that.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, we'll be on the lookout for that.
Cool.
I'm looking forward to knowing what the band name is and seeing that.
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah, tell me after. All right, I got you. Hell yeah, man. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. We started here in a couple of minutes on the game, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I love coming out here. Just wanted to say, and nice production you guys got set up today.
Yeah. We had to go with some of the B mics, but it's all right. It's
cool,
it's gonna come out.
Well,
okay,
thank you.
Absolutely, buddy.